Yes. Okay, let's not get ahead of ourselves. Yes, we all know about the terrible reputation Suicide Squad has, and in no way did I actually enjoy the story. It was pretty bad, and I think we can all agree on that. But after dropping the game before I could even finish it back on release, and then replaying it and actually finishing the story now as the final season, Season 4, has dropped, I actually enjoyed it more the second time around, and this time without paying attention to the internet screaming about how terrible this game is. I think the game did actually have some redeeming qualities, but I just want to clarify, I don't actually think Suicide Squad is good. I truly think it was a low effort game that Warner Bros. Decided to push off onto the higher ups at Rocksteady Games, who in turn rushed the developers to make a cash cow live service game using the beloved Arkham franchise. And before this game released, I actually had a very high opinion of Rocksteady Games as they developed my favorite franchise in gaming, but unfortunately the masterminds behind the Arkham series and the co-founders of Rocksteady, Sefton Hill and Jamie Walker, actually left Rocksteady right before the release of Suicide Squad. And a few months later we learned about Sefton and Jamie's brand new company, 100 Star Games, and ever since then they have been pretty much radio silent. Now obviously I'm not saying that the reason Suicide Squad missed the mark so badly was due to these two leaving, because there's no way they didn't know about the current state of the game. I mean, they even mentioned it on Twitter, and they didn't have anything negative to say about it either. But I will say, because they already seem to have one foot out the door with quietly launching their new company, they probably didn't really care about Suicide Squad, at least like they cared about the Arkham trilogy. Of course, this isn't confirmed or anything, just some speculation on my part. I just don't see the creators of the Arkham series seriously considering making a live service looter shooter game where they kill off the main protagonist of the universe in such a stupid way. Now, this brings me to my next point before we actually get into the game itself, the death of the Justice League, but more importantly, Arkham Batman. Now, if this is seriously how they decided to end the story of one of the best Batman depictions ever, it would have been a huge mistake on their part, and I think they know this now. And that is why in Season 2 of Suicide Squad, they technically revealed that the Justice League is actually alive, and the ones that we killed were merely clones, as we saved the Flash, who thinks we should still be in jail. This means that out of the entire league, the only one who actually died was Wonder Woman, who died fighting Superman's clone. Now, I haven't played any of these extra episodes they have because after beating the game, I just can't bring myself to play these pointless reskin missions and boss battles. But there's a problem with this whole Save the Justice League in-game side story. Rocksteady doesn't have any plans to continue content past this year's Season 4 release. So how exactly will we save the rest of the Justice League? Unless they've already finished the rest of the boring Brainiac boss fights and cutscenes of saving the Justice League with plans to release everything at the end of Season 4. But if that's not the case, then we'll probably never see how the rest of the story unfolds. But don't worry, I'll talk about this more later on as well. But enough of my ranting and rambling about the terrible planning on Rocksteady's part, let's actually talk about the game itself, and if it's actually as bad as people say. So as I mentioned, I just recently played through the entirety of the main game. Of course, I think we can all agree that the story was pretty lame, and it felt like it was written by some random Suicide Squad fan from Reddit. But one thing I actually particularly liked were the character interactions throughout the game, more specifically how the squad interacted with each other.
Sharkey, are you crying?
I have a complicated relationship with my father.
A lot of the dialogue was actually pretty funny in my opinion, and the banter actually felt realistic instead of being forced. And I would say a lot of that would go to King Shark and Boomerang in my opinion, but Harley Quinn did have some funny moments and Deadshot had some too, but he was more of a serious character than anything. And while none of the characters had much, if any, character development throughout the game, they did grow closer to each other as a team, but it's kind of unfortunate that what little growth they did have with each other was kind of drowned out by the terrible storytelling of the game. Aside from the storytelling, the gameplay really isn't too much better. The missions, though seemingly varied on the surface, with objectives like collecting data fragments, defending points, eliminating hordes of generic enemies, and destroying cannons, they ultimately feel identical when playing them. Each boils down to the same formula: bullet spraying and waves of the same unremarkable cookie-cutter enemies. The lack of tailored scenarios or unique gameplay moments leaves the experience feeling extremely repetitive, and for a game that barely stretches 10 hours, it quickly runs out of fresh ideas. The side missions also have the exact same missions. There's literally not a single unique mission in this game at all, and the side missions always have the same stupid gimmick like only critical hits do damage to enemies or only enemies with afflictions take damage. And in case you don't know what afflictions are, they're basically like these elemental powers you get through Ivy, which have these different effects like freezing enemies or crazing enemies to make them attack each other. These afflictions are typically activated by using your melee ability that have a slight cooldown. The gunplay and traversal feel dull and repetitive paired with a story that does little beyond predictable twists given away by the title. Yet, in those fleeting moments where the characters connect and bond, there's a glimpse of something genuine. Had this game arrived years earlier alongside the Arkham series, it likely would have been far more enjoyable and developed by a team still passionate about the franchise they had built from the ground up, who knew how to write a compelling story about this universe. Nowhere is this untapped potential clearer than in the boss battles. While not perfect, they at least try to break the repetitive monotony. However, Flash's speed gimmick gets boring quickly and doesn't really do anything special that would normally make bosses stand out from standard combat encounters. To make matters worse, the same trick is recycled for both Superman and to an even further degree Brainiac. Green Lantern stands out as the highlight of boss battles, or just the game in general to be honest, requiring players to dismantle his lantern constructs to break a shield before launching an attack. While the lower defenses than attack formula isn't groundbreaking, the variety of constructs and the visual spectacle of the encounter makes it the game's highlight moment. Batman, on the other hand, leans into his signature fear toxin for his confrontation, which I thought was super lame for his character, especially the main fight where you have to shoot a giant demon Batman who's launching different attacks at you that you have to dodge and then shoot him until you get an opening that does critical damage to him. I know I'm hating on this boss fight, and for good reason, since it sucks, but I'm not exactly sure how they could do an actual boss fight against him, mainly because Batman would just destroy the Suicide Squad in an actual fight. But this was definitely not the right way to handle it. And Batman serves as the third of 5 bosses, but the pacing is so rushed that the fight with Superman kicks off almost immediately after Batman's defeat. And then following this, you're forced to grind for another type of currency by completing side quests just to unlock the chance to fight Brainiac. But that's not all. Turns out there are 13 Brainiacs that you have to defeat. This is supposed to be some kind of in-game content, but here's the funny part. You're probably never going to be able to defeat all 13, because only, I believe, 7 have actually been released. They release 2 Brainiac boss fights every season, and the developers themselves have said they don't plan on continuing beyond Season 4 because barely anybody wants to finish the game, let alone actually play this game for months on end, just grinding these same exact missions over and over again, waiting for the new season to be released, just to replay the same boss fights over and over again. And by the way, after you defeat some of the bosses, they had the brilliant idea of having some of the enemy grunts take the traits of some of the heroes, like grunts that have super speed after killing Flash, or some that are almost invisible for some reason after you kill Batman. Not sure how that relates to Batman since he doesn't have powers, but I don't look too much into it, I guess. And before killing Green Lantern, some of the helicopters also get this sort of Green Lantern shield around them, and to my knowledge, I don't think we ever really get a Superman-based grunt, but I might be wrong, I just don't remember that ever happening. I have to say, for a live service game, they missed the mark terribly. I don't know whose idea it was to make this game live service, but that was possibly the worst decision they could have made, especially since Rocksteady doesn't even have experience making live service games. In conclusion, yes, Suicide Squad was a pretty bad game with terrible execution, but the game isn't all bad. It does have its moments, but the flaws are so overwhelming that there's no redemption for this game. I also wanted to cover Deathstroke and his character, but I honestly can't justify spending money on this game since I will never be reinstalling it after this video. And I'm actually kind of depressed that I spent $70 on it when it was released, especially since it's on sale for $3 right now. Like, that is absolutely insane. If you want to play this game, now's the best time to play it because there's absolutely no justification for wasting $70 on this low effort, repetitive cash grab. Anyway, that's about all I've got for today's video. I hope you've all enjoyed, and if you have, make sure to drop a like and subscribe. I appreciate all the support recently. We actually just hit 600 subscribers, which is crazy. We're getting closer to 1,000 every single day. And it's actually pretty amazing to see how my channel has been doing recently. I really do appreciate all the likes and comments as well. You guys are awesome. Also, make sure to use code GOLDEN at checkout at rogueenergy.com for all your energy drink needs. The link is in the description. I hope you have all enjoyed, and I'll catch you all next time. Peace out.
Sentences will be posthumously commuted in recognition of your efforts.
Impact in 10. 9.
Waller. Always taking the nuclear option.
Not even mad at this point.
Six.
What's that now in your nose?
5.